They announced there's like a list of production companies that will carry the next generation of Japanese textile industry. I think there were like maybe 200 companies listed, all the way in Hokkaido to all the way in south, Okinawa, for example. So I went through all the lists, I reached out, see if they can ship me swatches, which are sample fabrics, to New York. Some immediately, some didn't respond. Some said, no, we can't ship anything. Some said, yes, we will. So I probably ended up with maybe like 20, 30 companies said like, yes, we will. And of them, I ended up selecting like maybe 10, 15 companies. Then when I went back to Japan, I visited each companies and ended up working with maybe like 5 or 6 companies to this day.
You're listening to Customer Growth Sessions, presented by Intergrowth, where we talk through strategies to help up-and-coming e-commerce businesses bring in more customers. I'm your host, Pat Ahern. Let's jump in.
All right, listeners, welcome back to the latest episode of Customer Growth Sessions. Today, I'm thrilled to have on Aya Shimura, the founder over at A.Shimus. Aya, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Pat. It's very exciting to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on today. Can you start out giving us an overview? What is A.Shimus and how did you get started?
Yeah, so A.Shimus is a women's workwear brand based in New York, but we make everything in Japan, and our difference is that we make everything as a petite focused design, meaning that we design everything, especially for women who's under 5'4". And we exclusively use the premium materials from Japan. The garments are very functional, lightweight, and very durable and made to last.
Brilliant. So from day one, you'd shared with me that it was so important to find a manufacturing partner in Japan. Why Japan? I'm curious.
Yeah, so for me, I'm from Japan, so I know how Japanese people take craftsmanship very important. There's a term in Japan. It's magokoro in Japanese, meaning that like we put so much devotion into crafting. And it's all about like thoughtfulness in details. Like we pour our hearts into doing something, and it is pouring a lot of care into doing something, and it goes same thing for creating garments. So it's not just making something beautiful, it's also about thinking about people who wear it, like how making it comfortable, like durable, and also functional. Oftentimes, like when our artisan make a garment, it's a mix of handwork and also machines. And so machines give a precision, but also hand finishing as a nuance, and you can reproduce the same thing twice. So it's not just making it something very original, but also like subtle variation makes it like each piece very unique and alive. And when you wear something, like you immediately know like how that subtleness make it very like right on your body. And that's something I knew that I really wanted to make it in Japan. And also I speak Japanese. So like communication for me with these vendors was very like easy for me. So that's how I knew that I really wanted to work with Japanese production rather than like going somewhere else.
Amazing. So I really want to pick your brain on finding a manufacturing partner in particular. And I think a really good place to start is let's operate under a hypothetical. Let's say that I'm planning on starting a t-shirt company and I want to find a Japanese manufacturer. What are the questions, the decisions that I need to be making ahead of time before I'm even ready to go out and find a manufacturer? I'm talking things like specific fabrics that I want to work with, you name it. Like, what are some of those questions I really need to start asking myself?
Every factory has a strength and weakness in a category. For example, a knitting factory is great creating knits. Doesn't mean they're great at making a pair of jeans. And so you need to know what type of garments you want to focus on and what are the MOQ, what are the, timeline they can meet, and what are the type of customer they can handle. Like, for example, are they good at creating garments for kids, or are they good at creating garments for men's, or are they good at making garments for like women's? Like these things have to be get into like considerations. So I think having a very clear idea of like what the business model and your core targets, what are your, merchandising plan look like, and have that in your mind before going to factories and have that all lined up is definitely priority before deciding on which factory to work with.
Hey, listeners, if you're terrified about how much your business's revenue comes from Amazon, this is for you. I get it. Amazon's a double-edged sword. It's a really powerful sales channel, but at the same time, become too reliant on Amazon and you put yourself in a dangerous scenario where you're just biding your time until Amazon cannibalizes all your sales and rolls out the Amazon Basics version of your product. I've seen it happen a lot of times. That's ultimately why we help businesses to diversify away from Amazon by building a secondary and then tertiary revenue stream so that if Amazon rolls out the Amazon Basics version of your product, you don't see your sales go down to zero. If you're interested in learning more, book a free strategy session with me at intergrowth.com/CGS. Once again, that's intergrowth.com/CGS. And I'd love to pick your brain on MOQs or minimum order minimum order quantities. I would imagine that the answer is going to vary depending on the manufacturer, but let's say that I'm looking to place my first, my first test order before I like really scale up this business. Let's work with a t-shirt company. What are some ranges that I might expect to get in terms of minimum order quantity, when I'm talking to some of these different manufacturers?
In Japan in general, MOQ is a lot smaller than other countries. This could depend on like how many sizes you have, how many color variation you have, but overall, let's say you have 3 sizes, 2 color variation. So overall, that's 6 variation, 1 style. For what I've worked with, usually 25, 30 could be somewhere reasonable. But sometimes that's usually for, I would say, like a jacket or suiting, something that's with like a higher manufacturing cost. When it comes to like a t-shirt with like relatively lower margin for the manufacturing companies, I think that could be more like 50, I'd say. But I think this could all be relative, meaning that if you have other businesses like, okay, I can also do a jacket with you, and that could be like another 30 units, then they might be down to negotiate. But it's hard. Like if you're just doing like 25 t-shirt, they might not be willing to do it. But then also you're bringing other businesses to them, then they can like, because at the end of the day, they want to like lock a, like, like space for you. So they would rather have like a bunch of business that's going on for them. So they would rather have like multiple things going on rather than having like some of the parts in the factory like idling just for you, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It makes a ton of sense. I mean, it sounds like it's the type of thing where if you go somewhere like Japan, you can maybe get a smaller MOQ for that first order, first couple of orders. But it sounds like the manufacturers are going to be really looking to vet and make sure that you're in this for the long haul. They don't necessarily want people that are looking to place one bulk order. They want people that are going to place one bulk order every quarter or, twice a year, let's say.
Mhm. And I think Japanese factories, they might be a little bit higher end in terms of, manufacturing cost, but they are very, very good in terms of like quality. If there's anything, if there's any misalignment ever, they're happy to like take everything back, fix it, as soon as they find it and without any extra charge. And, if there's like any, it's not even their fault. Let's say there's like a typhoon that they couldn't get it done because, there's like, let's say national holiday. They work around the national holiday and they still make it work to the deadline. So like the devotion to make things work, it's very professional. So I have a I do have a lot of trust in when I work with them. I never had like any issue with, communication or, things didn't work or like things didn't come around right. So I think things come with a price, but then I have like when you need something to be done professionally in like a good quality, that's something you can really rely on.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So I'm curious. So stepping back, it sounds like biggest things you really need to figure out before you start the manufacturing search is one, what sort of products are you going to sell? What sort of garments are you going to sell? Two, who is the customer or series of customers you're looking to work with? Three, it sounds like getting a rough sense of your price point so you can understand, what materials are going to be really important as well. Let's say I've figured out those three things. How would I start the search of actually going about finding a manufacturer in Japan? Do you find it was, going to Google and searching for Japanese manufacturers? Is there like a manufacturing supplier type site? What worked for you?
So I did multiple ways. I also did the Googles. There's like, platform where you can be matched with the production companies. One thing I found most reliable is that there's a Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry. So they announced there's like a list of production companies that will carry the next generation of Japanese textile industry. There's like, I think there are like maybe 200 companies listed all the way in Hokkaido to all the way in South, Okinawa, for example. So I went through all the list, reached out, see if they can ship me swatches, which are sample fabrics, to New York. Some immediately they didn't. Didn't respond. Some said no, we can't ship anything. Some said yes, we will. So I probably ended up with maybe like 20, 30 companies said like yes, we will, and of them, I ended up selecting like maybe 10, 15 companies. Then when I went back to Japan, I visited each companies and ended up working with maybe like 5 or 6 companies to this day. So they have like a great quality. They're willing to like, work with like companies abroad. And so I think there are multiple ways you can work around this. Doesn't matter how big or small the company is. It's sometimes easier when they have a abroad office abroad. For example, like big ones, they do have a showroom in New York, and you can go in and like you can check, swatches or like fabric samples, which makes your job easier. But at the same time, some of the small scale fabric companies, like they're still willing to, send you samples, and then you can also visit their offices, and they're very willing to show you everything. So what works best for me was that there's a list of 200 companies announced by the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry in Japan that are set to carry the future of Japanese textile industry. So I looked them up and reached out each and every one of them and see which one of them could send me a fabric sample. And of them, I think about maybe like 20 or 30 of them actually send me a fabric sample to my New York office. And of them, maybe 10 or 20, I actually liked their sample and the price worked. So when I went back to Japan, I visited their office across Japan and ended up working maybe 5 or 10 of them. The size were very different in terms of like, some were maybe 5, 10 people company to like, 300, 500 people company. And I think your job will be easier if the company is bigger, they have an office or showroom in New York or, Tokyo, where it's more accessible than the other. But at the end of the day, they're, very remote, small companies who's very willing to like work with you closely and like send you samples and like, have a shorter lead time to produce their textiles. So there's a lot of way you can make it work. And I think it's more important that you can send them like references and like what you're exactly looking for so that there's like a less miscommunication and you're more aligned on like what you're trying to get out of them.
It's wild to me to hear that there were, it sounds like 200 different manufacturing firms that you reached out to. My assumption was, oh, maybe there were 5 that you reached out
Mhm.
to. 3 of them sent you samples and you worked with one of them. So you went all out going through call it like the manufacturing vetting process. Were out of all those firms that you reached out to, that got back to you, that sent you swatches, were there any vetting questions that you found particularly helpful for helping you to either determine, hey, this firm is a definite consideration, or hey, this firm is a definite no based on the way they responded to this?
That's a good question. I guess I asked a very basic question, what is your lead time for bulk production? Do you send samples abroad? What are the price range? I think my questions are very basic, but like the way they answer, I could tell like whether if they give you actual numbers that I can use, or they're like straight up like, no, we don't have range. I'll range you to like, wide, or no, we don't send, or like, you're wasting my time. Like depending on like the how they answer my questions, I could tell like, okay, these people are not interested. I think some companies are very straightforward that they only want to work with like a big brands, like they don't want to work with like emerging brands. So it made my job easier to figure that out, what, their intentions were.
Hey, listeners, if you're struggling to profitably acquire new customers, we're here to help. Pat from Intergrowth here. We've been helping e commerce brands like Brevity, Cierto Tequila, Bella Bridesmaids, and more since 2016 to profitably scale their customer base. If you're interested in learning more, go to intergrowth.com/CGS and you can schedule a complimentary consultation with me. Once again, that's intergrowth.com/CGS. And along those lines with lead times, shipping from Japan, I'm curious, what do you see for lead times right now? And would you say that, or maybe what would you say is a realistic expectation for lead times from, day you place the order till day that the items arrive at your warehouse, office, you name it?
Our business model is that we produce textiles, but we manufacture final products in Japan as well. So let's say mass producing textile, that takes like about 3 months. And then final products will take another 3 months to produce. So that's like 6 months in total. And right now, because of our small batches, it doesn't really make sense for us to ship by vessels. So we only do air. Air usually takes maybe a week, including, customs, all that. Yeah, it's really just 6 months, mostly for production lead time. But if you want to do shipping by vessels, I think that would take another like 40, 50 days. But unless you have a big portion, big, number of items that you want to ship, it's really hard to justify the price and the time of, shipping.
Oh, definitely. Well, and even, I mean, shipping by air, hearing that it's taking, 6 months for with all is said and done, I mean, that's difficult to plan sales cycles 6 months in
Mhm.
advance, 7 months in advance, let alone you add another month and a half into the mix. That doesn't make your job easy. On the manufacturing front, it sounds like right now there's 5 or 10 manufacturing firms that you work with. As you've started to work with some of these firms, are there new red flags that have emerged, or maybe green flags that have emerged that, in maybe you wouldn't have been able to see it in hindsight, but as you've started working with them, you've been able to say, oh, this is a really good, firm for us to keep working with, or hey, maybe this firm isn't going to be a reliable long-term partner.
I think when people change, like a person, a person of contact changes, and the next person hasn't really gotten ideas of what we've been talking about, and I feel like the person is very unaware of what's going on. I think that's almost a red flag, because it's the same company and you should have like CRM, and how do you not know what's going on? Like you shouldn't be asking this question or that question. This actually happened in the past. So that would make me wonder, maybe it's time I should switch a company. And on the other side, when there's like a very green flag, was that I didn't raise a question or I didn't raise a concern, but this person of contact, we've been working some time now. She always raise a question or concerns to me, even though it might not be the best of um interest for it. Like sometimes it could backfire to her by bringing this concern. But she told me like, okay, this could might not be best, but then I think this might be a concern later on, so that we could like manage the quality control very early on. And I think that's when like I actually like had more trust in her, and I feel like she could be a very long-term partner.
Wow, that's amazing. And when it comes to working with these manufacturing firms, stepping back for placing, let's say, that first order with them, what data points do you need to send them in order to get that finished product that you're really looking for? I'd imagine certainly colors, actual like product designs, but if you were to package that all up in a box, what are some of those key deliverables you're sending over?
So to the manufacturing company, so we do have a production vendors who does OEM. So I don't directly do business with manufacturing factories per se. So what we provide to them is the specification of like what fabrics we want to use, the tech pack, which is like a documents that specify like this is how exactly we want our fabrics to be cut and how we want them to be sewn, all the details. So basically, if they have these documents, like any factories can sew exactly, cut and sew. And the units we like, it's like a PO, like purchase order of like how many garments, like how many units, how many color variation, like what sizes we want them to be produced, and also all the like material we wanted to be used. That's also part of a take packs. And then where they want to be delivered by when, all these like I guess like a production schedule details, and then how they want to be packed.
Interesting. In For now, what have you found to be effective in terms of storing your products before they're ready for sales? Are you using a third party logistics or a warehousing partner? Do you have them stored in your office? What's working for you right now?
So originally I wanted to be shipping everything to the US so that I can save some warehouse cost. But then with everything that's happening with tariffs, I ended up signing two warehouse, one in Japan and a one in New Jersey, so that half of the inventories I store in Japan. Because, if you might not be selling everything, you don't want to pay for the tariffs, right? The worst thing you can do is that you pay for the tariffs and they are not sold. So I bring them back to Japan. So like the tariff, you can take it back. So what I'm doing is that I bring half of the inventory in the US. That's I only sell in the US. And everything else, like either in Japan or other parts of Asia, I ship from Japan. And so everything in Japan is only in a warehouse. But in the US, I store either in the warehouse or my place, my apartment, or at the store. And at the store, we constantly restock every time we make sales. We don't have like tons of space there, but we want to have like every size, because if you don't have a size and the customer wants to try it, it's either like you have it and then the customer buys it, or if you don't have it, that customer will be gone and you miss your opportunity to sell. So I constantly like bring in the stock. So there are like 3 points of stocking, like my home, the warehouse, and the store. So I guess there are 4 places I have, including Japan.
That's brilliant. And I love the idea to have, two warehouses, one in the US, one outside the US, so that you're, as you said, you're not dealing with all those tariffs at once by bulk importing everything to the US. B, let's say that a product line isn't selling super well. That way you don't deal with the import tariffs and then need to ship it back to Japan from there. That's a brilliant way to do that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I guess the warehouse cost is much lower than tariffs. So every time we have like lower stocks, then like we like restock by shipping from Japan. Also, the shipping cost is like very expensive lately. So anything we can save, like, we have to like do small batches. And I think overall warehouse cost is actually cheaper in Japan as well.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, Aya, this has been amazing. For, let's say, for any New York City based listeners, first, where can they go to buy you guys in physical stores?
Yeah, so right now we have a one store on Upper East Side. It's called Cocktails Boutique. It's on 73rd and Lexington. It's open from Monday to Saturday, sometimes on Sunday. It's, I guess, open from 12 to 6 p.m. We're always there. If anyone wants to try our clothing, we'll be there. Also, we have an online store and we do pop up from time to time. So please check our website. We'll announce on social media, Instagram, or website whenever we do events.
Amazing. Amazing. Once again, listeners, this is Aya Shimura, the founder over at A.Shimus. Aya, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun being here.
Thanks for tuning in to Customer Growth Sessions. If you found it helpful, subscribe and give us a review. It helps us to grow the show. Looking for more SEO guidance on how to grow your business? Contact us at intergrowth.com/estimator or email me directly. You can reach me at pat@intergrowth.com. That's all for today. We'll see you again soon.